All right, y'all, let's do it. Let's get it popping. Butler in the house for the second time today because we got to discuss some breaking news. News broke about 2 hours ago, but I was on stream this morning talking about both the Jets and the Giants and how there was no way you could bring Brian Daboll back after not just what we saw yesterday. And forgive me, I'm down on my phone because Jordan Raanan is going to join us. So I am just sending him the link to hop on the stream here. But there was no way you were going to be able to bring Daboll back, not just after what we saw yesterday, but because of what we've seen the entirety of this season and the Giants, who were not expected to be a great team by any means, simply finding ways to lose games despite big leads in fourth quarters. There's just no explanation for that. So they made the right decision today on one hand, and on the other, they decided also that Joe Schoen was going to survive this, which doesn't make sense to me. As Juris points out, and keep the comments rolling, and I want to hear from y'all. Giants keeping the GM reminds me of Balky and the Jags. Yeah, Trent Balky. This, to me, and I'm curious to get Jordan Renan's thoughts on it. I don't understand that. Well, good thing it was Brian Daboll who decided to give Daniel Jones that contract and to allow Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney to walk. Like, what are we doing here? If we are looking at what's happened with the Giants over the last couple of years and deciding that it is Brian Daboll who is fully to blame for it, then I think we're doing this incorrectly. Now, is there an element of you want to have some continuity because he drafted the quarterback? I guess, but this to me reeks of bad decision making by the New York Giants. I would have cleaned house, and how attractive this job is because you do have your quarterback would have also made you feel good about your chances of getting this right. Now, I know they've time and time again, right? Like, one of the reasons why John Mara didn't want to make this decision this past offseason was because he was tired of hiring and firing coaches. But this just proves everything that we had been saying, that he should have fired him last offseason. Should have fired him last offseason. If you were going to make this decision 10 games into the year, you should have made it last season or last offseason. Now, I'm pretty sure the retort is going to be, we thought that the team was good enough to show improvement. And I hear that, but now you just made a decision that all of us were saying should have been made much sooner. So I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I think Daboll should have been fired because you can't blow the leads against the Saints. You're up 14-3. That Denver Broncos lost, that Cowboys lost. They lost yesterday to the Bears. You can't consistently blow leads and expect to keep your job. That's just the reality of this situation. And unfortunately for Brian Daboll, Jackson Dart being good wasn't enough to save him, because that's what we thought. Like, that was his lone lifeline. That was going to help save his job. None of us could have imagined Jackson Dart would pop as quickly as he did, and Daboll would get canned, because we thought that if Jackson Dart were playing well, with how great that defense was marketed to be, then of course he was going to keep his job. That's not the case. So now the Giants get a head start on looking for a head coach. Mike Kafka is going to assume the role of interim, and the Giants will get a good look at him. And look, I was ready to come on here and crush that decision. But I guess it's worth I guess it's worth examining, right? Like he's in-house. He is part of the reason why your quarterback has played well. So it is worth examining him getting a shot. But I said this morning on the stream. If I'm the Giants, I need someone who is going to immediately come in here and insert credibility. I need authority that comes with credentials, that comes with accomplishments. Someone who already has the command of the room because of what he's accomplished so far. The cachet. And people are going to go to Mike McCarthy. I understand why you would have him immediately come to mind, but I'll tell y'all this, man, and you can hit me up in the comments. If I'm a Giant fan, what I'm rooting for, Ravens, let that thing go south. Baltimore's won 3 straight games, and because Pittsburgh lost last night, they're just a game back in that division. They haven't played the Steelers yet, so I'm pretty sure, and I don't even have to check this, the Ravens, despite being 1-5 just 10 minutes ago, are now the odds-on favorites to win that division. I'm certain that the Vegas odds are the Ravens are going to win that division. But if I'm a Giant fan, I'm rooting for them to lose out. I want to see this thing bottom out because there's a chance that if the Ravens flat out miss the playoffs, John Harbaugh could become available. And if that happens, he fits the criteria of what I'm looking for. Same thing happens with Tomlin and the Steelers. And again, these are pipe dreams, but you got to think big at this point. Pittsburgh flatlines. Maybe we get a parting of ways between Tomlin and that front office because they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And if Tomlin shakes free, Harbaugh shakes free, and I guess to a lesser extent, how about if Stefanski gets canned? If that happens, sign me up, baby. Again, I'm looking for someone to come in and instantly establish he's got control of this thing, a CEO, because of his message immediately resonating due to the credentials, due to the accomplishments, someone who's got a loud voice. And I don't mean that literally, but it's like, all right, we've already seen what you can do. They've tried the coordinators, Daboll, Judge, Shermer, McAdoo. None of that has been successful. Can we get an established veteran head coach with some pelts on the wall? Because you got a quarterback, you've got some pieces on offense with Neighbors and Scatterable both coming back from injury. You've got what is it? The contents of a plan on offense. That's what it is, right? You've got the contents of a plan on offense. Yes, that's the quote. You've got the contents of a plan on offense, and you have a defense that is very talented, just hasn't gotten the job done for whatever reason, closing these games out in the fourth quarter. Danny V hits us up. He's like, Tomlin, that's a dream scenario. Absolutely. And there are a bunch of Steelers fans right now that are like, yo, we want Tomlin gone anyway. Take him off of our hands, especially after that pathetic loss last night on national television to the Chargers. Steelers fans are fed up with Mike Tomlin. So if you can get your hands on a guy like that, a Super Bowl winning head coach, dog, think about how different we are talking about the future of the Giants versus where we were right before the season, before we knew Jackson Dart was going to pop the way that he has, before we knew that your man's Cam Scatterable was going to jump off the page the way that he did before the injury. So if I'm a Giant fan, as frustrated as I have been over the last 3 seasons, I'm excited right now because as sad as it sounds, the firing of a head coach does spring forth hope. It does spring forth hope that you can turn this thing around, especially now that we've learned you've got a good quarterback. And we've learned that pretty quickly. You've learned you got a pretty good quarterback. So if I'm a Giant fan, in an odd way, as devastating as it is to be the laughing stock, because anytime you're at week 10 and you're firing guys, let's not act like we should be celebrating that. But because it shines you in a negative light. But I'd be a little excited about the potential that maybe, just maybe, we can finally get this right, especially because we have the quarterback in place already, which is not something that I guess since Coughlin you've had. Danny V chimes in. Sometimes guys just need to change the scenery. I think Tomlin in New York, young team, let's go, sign me up. Which is why, and I 100% agree with this. Which is why I'm saying, yo, root for the Steelers to bottom out. If that thing goes all the way south, Rodgers looks like he did last night, and Rodgers was having I would say Rodgers was having a good year, decent year. But if he all of a sudden falls off of a cliff, this team misses the playoffs, and Tomlin's streak of finishing above 500 ends, then yeah, I think that you are putting yourself in a prime spot to maybe go scoop that dude up from Pittsburgh. Want to hear from y'all in the comments. Ty D. Butler, give me a shout out on X. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Jordan Raanan's about to join the show. Going to pull up and put us on to everything happening. How did we get here? Why is Shane still employed? Why is he allowed to have a say in who the next head coach is for the Giants? That's what I find mad interesting. This isn't just a Brian Daboll problem. The Giants aren't about to miss the playoffs for the third straight year. The Giants are not 2-8 this season just because of coaching. Now, coaching has a lot to do with it. They should be 5-4. Blowing leads the way that they did against the Cowboys, the Broncos, and the Bears, that's a gut punch and is an indictment of your head coach. But this roster is not as good as we thought it should be 4 years into a tenure. And it doesn't feel like, outside of the quarterback, they're like trending up. So Jordan Raanan's going to pull up. Want to hear from you guys in the chat. Hit me up. Ty D. Butler once again. We're on Twitter. We are on YouTube as well. Talking about the New York Giants firing Brian Daboll. We all knew this was coming at some point. Now, I felt like they would wait until the offseason, but I guess they wanted to get a head start just as far as seeing what Mike Kafka has. I'd imagine that the ideal scenario for them is to corral a head coach who is battle tested. And Kafka, to his credit, has, been blocked from interviewing with other teams because the Giants valued him that much, and he's looked upon as someone who could be a head coach, which, impressive for him, right? Given he hasn't had great quarterback play up until this year. So he now gets his shot over the final, 7 games of the year to see if he can be that dude going forward. He gets his shot. Giants 2-8. Once again. Once again. Who's going to be calling plays? I believe it's going to be Kafka. He has to. And this is a fascinating question. Because remember last year, and I'm a Jet fan, Jeff Ulbrich was given that interim tag. and was calling his own plays on defense. And I think one of the reasons why he did that was because he wanted to show management that he could operate as that CEO. He could be the head coach, and his strength was defense because he was the defensive coordinator. So he was capable of manning the ship, one-man band. And it ended up hurting him because that Jet defense fell off of a cliff. And as someone who was inexperienced, you having to do all of that, and maybe he underestimated how big of a responsibility that was. So it blew up in his face. But, he's trying to impress Woody Johnson and show, yeah, I can do this. That was his audition. And I'd imagine Kafka is going to do the same thing here. Call the plays, unless they decide to, or he decides, you know what, I'm better suited to not do that. But I just don't know how he would go from, he's the offensive coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator. All right, so before Jordan Raanan hops on, I'm going to read the statement from the Mara family in this announcement of where they decided to part ways with the head coach, keep the GM. The New York Giants announced today that head coach Brian Daboll has been relieved of his duties. Assistant head coach, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka will serve as interim head coach. We spoke this morning about the direction of the franchise on the field, and we've decided that at this time it's in our best interest to make a change at the head coaching position. President John Mara and Chairman Steve Tisch said in a joint statement. The past few seasons have been nothing short of disappointing, and we have not met our expectations. And we will work to deliver a significantly improved product. We appreciate Coach Daboll for his contributions to our organization. We wish the Daboll family all the best in the future. Another thing is, man, this finally puts an end to that ridiculous narrative that Brian Daboll made Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the 7th pick in the draft. There were conversations that Josh Allen could go number 1 in that draft. Josh Allen has since won an MVP without Brian Daboll. So this idea that, he created Josh was always stupid. It was always moronic. Did he help him? Yes, I'm sure he did. But pretending like he turned Tommy DeVito into Patrick Mahomes was insane. Josh Allen was highly coveted. Josh Allen was awesome. And yes, struggled in year 1. So I'm not denying he had some impact on Josh. But people treated it like he took some scrub and made him into an MVP. And I've been saying this for years, that we overrated said impact on Josh. Josh, who, by the way, yesterday was pretty bad in that game against the Dolphins. But this news today doesn't come as a shock. Doesn't come as a shock at all. It's the Shane news to me that I find the Shane news to be shocking. The fact that you're going to allow him to pick the next head coach. That's what I find to be rather shocking. Let me get I got Jordan Raanan on here. Gonna get Jordan Raanan on here so we could talk to my dude. Getting Jordan on. Jordan's busy today, obviously dealing with this news, so he's getting some intel. So I want to make sure that I reward the audience with what our man Jordan has to say. He's about to hop on here. He's pulling up. Shout out Jordan Raanan. Here we go. My man.
Yeah, my bad. So the other link was a dead link, I guess.
Yeah, my bad. I had to restart. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Yeah, it said. I was wondering why it said ended after 39 seconds, but I was
Yeah,
sitting
my
there for
fault.
like 5 minutes, like an idiot.
We live, bro. We live right now.
Let's go, man.
Let's do it. You look good.
Am I cropped up? I mean, I can't see myself, but
You can't see yourself? Why not? You should
Well,
be able to see it.
I have the phone that way. I didn't flip it to facing me.
You look great, man. You look busy. You look busy.
I mean, it's kind of busy right now, Ty. It's kind of how it works. The Giants kind of made a big move today, you know?
2 big moves. All right, so hit us with everything you know, how we got here, what it means going forward as far as Brian Daboll being fired and Joe Schoen being allowed to pick Brian Daboll's replacement.
Yeah, let's go back to the end of last year when John Mara came out and said, they're both going to be back. Listening to that, I came away thinking, you know what? It almost sounded like Brian Daboll barely survived. He was the one that was specifically on a hot seat, not necessarily Joe Schoen, even though they've kind of been lumped together. And that it was Brian Daboll that, hey, he needs to win games. And guess what? They're 2-8 right now, Ty. They had an embarrassing incident where he went in the blue tent when Jackson Dart was getting checked for concussion, right? They keep losing games. They blew a ridiculous game in Denver. They blew a ridiculous game in Dallas. They had the lead with 15 seconds left. They blew a game yesterday in Chicago. Again, up 10 points with less than 4 minutes to play. So you put it all together, and on top of it, and I said the other day on the radio on Friday to Rick and Dave, they said, do you think he gets fired during? And I said, no, I don't think he gets fired during the season, except, here's the caveat, if he happens to get the quarterback injured, which seemed inevitable, right? Because he was already had 3 concussion tests. Now he has 4. We think about how ridiculous that is, 4 in 8 games, right? If that happened, that could be the last straw. And coming into today, combine that with him getting injured, with the idea that at the same exact time, they blew another ridiculous game. Talk about worst case scenario for Brian Daboll. It was like, well, we got to kind of move on here. They're 2-8 again. They're not winning games. They're blowing games left and right. And on top of that, the quarterback's now hurt.
Man, so many questions I have for you, my man. I appreciate you joining. Do me a favor real quick. Yeah. Can you, because you got the notification. I tagged you on Twitter. Can you retweet the stream so that we can get, can you go on your Twitter and retweet it just so we can maximize our audience? Because people need to hear from you, man. You're the man of the hour. You're the man of the people. And maybe it was Jordan.
Phone. I got the bat phone, the second phone, okay?
Yeah, just hit that retweet. I tagged you. And you out there putting out bad juju, man. Talk about the quarterback getting injured, and then he goes out there and gets injured.
One of the players actually said that to me. He said, how did you know he was going to end up getting injured? Like, what do we get, guys like voodoo? You know what the answer is? It was so obvious. Anyone with 2 eyes could see it, right? You don't need something to do with juju. He had already had 3 concussion tests.
Crazy, man.
That's not normal. My mentions are crazy right now, so it's hard to find anything.
I'll text it. You want me to text it to you?
It's under your account?
Yeah, it's under my account.
Search your name. I can't find anything.
Your mentions are going nuts because you're the most popular planet.
It's a big time right now.
You're the most popular person on the planet.
All right, there we go.
Good luck.
All right, we're good.
All right. So before I get to my Joe Schoen question, one of the listeners weighed in, Danny V. How is the defensive coordinator still here, Jordan? He needs to go. So Shane Bowen, how does he keep his job?
Yeah, look, the defense obviously hasn't been great, but Shane Bowen has a track record. He was a pretty good defensive coordinator beforehand. They don't have a ton of options behind him. So I think, they fix it with Mike Kafka running the show and hopefully, a more process-based approach to everything, and everything will kind of be, I guess the hope is that it's settled. But yeah, Brian Daboll, they couldn't scapegoat the defensive coordinator when, Brian Daboll had the problems with the past defensive coordinator. It just would have been a really bad look. And so I think they don't want to have any more. I think they want to at least have some continuity on that side of the ball. Let
I,
Kafka handle the offensive side, the overarching head coaching stuff, and let Shane Bowen try to get it fixed in company with help of Kafka.
well, I guess, look, it's a good thing for Joe Schoen that it was Brian Daboll's decision to give Daniel Jones the contract, Brian Daboll's decision to let Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley walk. Oh, wait, that wasn't Brian Daboll. That's the general manager. So can someone, you, Jordan Raanan, explain to me how this GM that is overseeing a team that has been bad for 3 straight years gets to keep his job? Meanwhile, the head coach is fired today.
You read ownership's comments and quotes close enough, you see that they say, and this is obviously the sales pitch, right? They have a good young core of players they've developed, right? So what do you take from that? That they've actually built a good young core here that they can win with moving forward. Jackson Dart, Abdul Carter. Obviously, they have Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence were there before. Brian Burns they brought in, right? Cam Scattaboo. They got Malik Neighbors, obviously. They didn't even say him. And these are the guys that they look at and say, you know what? We should be better. So they're saying, look, we brought in players. It might not be a great team, but they should be better than they are. I think that's the point you make. And that's why Joe Schoen is going to remain. And he's heading the head coaching search. They're telling you he's not going anywhere. That's what that's saying. So, Joe Schoen will head the coaching search moving forward. And he'll get an opportunity to continue to build here because what ownership said is that they feel that they built a good young core that they can now build around and have success with moving forward.
So let me ask you this. If the Giants closed the deal yesterday, which they should have, Daboll obviously doesn't get fired. Give me the timeline. Was this just inevitable? Was there a chance he could survive the season, or had they just seen enough because they just keep blowing leads?
Yeah, I think he probably could have survived the season without any more disasters, but that's kind of what his regime has specialized in, disasters, right? The last 3 years, I mean, just over and over. It's like, the Chicago's, it was bad. I've seen this before, though, ho hum. But yeah, at some point, look, he was getting, if you take that many hits, eventually, you're going to end up getting hurt. And so that's their future quarterback. That's the guy they have to build around. To put him in jeopardy, which is essentially what was happening, it was inevitable that we were going to end up at this point, in my opinion.
So does all of that fall on Daboll, or does some? And I know this, I don't want to blame the victim, but does some of that fall on Jackson Dart, who just knows one level to play, right? Like he just knows one speed, similar to Cam Scattaboo. Like those guys have one gear, and it's what has made them great this far.
Sure, and you don't want to take that away and say, we want you to have that aggressiveness. We want you to still at times fight for those extra yards. But this is a different league, and that's why it's on the coaching to pound it into them, to really just reiterate over and over, not enable him to go out there and remember the Eagles game? Just go look at that play against the Eagles. He's by the sideline. He literally dives head first, and he's running over the middle linebacker of the Eagles. He's diving head first on the play on the sideline. As a quarterback in the NFL, this isn't college anymore. It is a different beast. You have to be, to me, it's not, I think people are harping on the wrong thing. Can't do all these design runs. Sure, you could do design runs. They do plenty of design runs with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, but they know when, and Lamar Jackson's not going and trying to run people over all the time. Very rarely does he. They're making sure to get down. There's times where it's not worth getting to trying to fight for those extra yards. When you're near midfield in the middle of the second quarter, you don't have to put your head down and try to drive through a linebacker consistently. If you do that in the NFL, I guarantee you'll end up on the sideline repeatedly, over and over. It's not running over a cornerback in the SEC. It's running over an NFL middle linebacker or safety. That's a different animal you're dealing with.
All right, I want to go galaxy brain here with you. Big, and I know what your reaction's going to be, but I'm just spitballing. So let's just have a conversation. Because I said this earlier on my stream this morning, and I'm going to reiterate it now for the audience. I appreciate you guys. Chime in via the comments if you have some questions for Jordan. If I'm a Giants fan, what I'm rooting for, Pittsburgh, go south. They were awful last night. So if that thing spins sideways and then the Steelers get to the
Oh,
end of the season,
Mike Tomlin?
they're not. Listen, they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Like maybe, just maybe, there's not a firing, but a mutually parting of ways. Or let's go to Baltimore. The Ravens are red hot. They've won 3 straight games, just a game back in the division. But if they miss the playoffs with Lamar Jackson, has that message gone stale for John Harbaugh? So those are the 2 teams that I'm looking at. I'm saying, please be a disaster. Enough of a disaster so that ownership on those respective teams can look at those Hall of Fame coaches and say, we need a change of direction. And the Giants obviously would, come in there and be interested. Your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, any team that has a coaching opening that wouldn't be interested in Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh is just like, you'd be crazy, right? So absolutely, if those were options, I mean, that's the ideal thing. The thing for the Giants shouldn't be offensive coordinator, defensive guy. That shouldn't even matter. It's about getting a leader for the entire team. We can make the argument, haven't really had that since Tom Coughlin, right? And they keep hiring. Pat Shermer was an offensive guy. Daboll was a quarterback guru. Joe Judge was supposed to be that guy. Kind of did build him up for 2022 that year, but but he worked the players too hard to kind of sour that relationship. Ben McAdoo was an offensive guy, not a leader of men for the entire team. So that's what they need. Yeah, and Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, if they happen to shake free, would perfectly fit that bill. It would be perfect. But if they do shake free, there'll be a line of teams trying to get those guys as well, which puts you in a lot of competition. So
Yeah, but I think Jordan, and look, we don't know. There could be some surprise openings, right? But I think right now, as it stands, the Giants, that's the most attractive job on the market because
sure,
of the
I think it's a pretty
quarterback.
good job. You'll have Jackson Dart in year
Yeah.
2. The only thing is you will have a general manager who's like a holdover who knows how you'll view each individual candidate views that. But yeah, you have some players to work with: Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatteraboo, like I mentioned before, the edge rushers, Dexter Lawrence. I mean, not playing great this year, but
Yeah.
these are some pretty. Those are some at least uh, core players to build around. And they need to add more depth and all these other. They still need more weapons, all these other things. But yes, it is a desirable job, very desirable job. But there's a lot of things that come into the equation. Maybe people don't want to live in New York and New Jersey. Maybe the individual. Maybe if you're at that level and you could basically choose your job, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, if they somehow shook free, that they would be like, you know what? I don't want that kind of market. I don't want that kind of pressure all the time around me. Like, this is not something I don't even need. I don't need that. And so there's a lot of things that could go into. But yes, very desirable job. I think there'll be plenty of people that'll be interested in the New York Giants job. But the names like right now, like Mike Kafka, obviously is going to get a shot here in the final 7 games. A guy like Antonio Pierce, I'd expect him to be in the mix. Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, who works with Jim Harbaugh. That's a guy I could see getting into it. I'm pretty sure Wink Martindale, him and Daboll butted heads. He'll throw his hat into the ring as well, right? He always had a good relationship with John Mara. So, there'll be a lot of coaches that will be interested in this Giants job for sure.
We see this internet rumor. Bill Belichick.
I don't know. You tell me. Could you see Bill Belichick with his girlfriend Jordan Hudson walking around the sideline? I don't know if that's what the Giants are looking for. There's also the lawsuit with the Brian Flores thing that Bill Belichick sent the text. I don't know. There seems to be a lot that would go with that. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick back channels and talks to people about interest in the job. Maybe they talk to him at some point, but I don't know. Just seems a little bit far fetched at this point.
Have you mentioned because Freddie Falcon hits us up, Clint Kubiak?
Yeah, that's an interesting name. He'll be a hot guy. But again, like I mentioned before, I think, and you mentioned guys like Tomlin and Harbaugh. Like you want a leader of men, right? A guy who's a leader, overarching leader of the team, not a guy who's this guy's an offensive specialist or which Kubiak is. So I don't know if that's the route that I necessarily would go, but I could definitely see him. I mean, he's gonna be a hot name. He'll probably be in a lot of mixes, so I could definitely see him being in the mix as well.
You've covered a lot of head coaches in the last decade. Like
Yeah,
this is
I know. I'll still talk to all of them. That's the good part about it. Tom Coughlin, even though, I came in and asked him about retiring on my first day. Ben McAdoo, he's in New England. Good guy. Love Ben. Then we went to Pat Shermer. He's out in Colorado. That was an interesting regime. Joe Judge, who, by the way, coached Jackson Dart in Ole Miss and is coaching the heck out of the
Bring him
Jack
back.
Chambliss.
Wait, bring Joe Judge back. Hashtag bring Joe Judge back.
He does have he has a really strong relationship with Jackson Dart. Like on his draft day, who was with him, out in Utah was Joe Judge. Like
There we
that's
go, man.
yeah. So,
I think, and listen, I think the quarterback sneak on 3rd and 6 in opponent's territory is actually better when you have a quarterback who can run like
so
Jackson
it's
Dart.
Chicago, like that was the when he did that was actually Washington, but the week before, remember, Joe Judge essentially put himself in the firing line by going on that 11-minute rant in Chicago. So
Yeah.
Chicago is a bad juju for Giants head
Yeah.
coaches in recent years.
Yeah, you make a great point. I just got a couple more for you, Jordan. I know you got a busy day. Someone asked me, Mr. R&B, is Kafka going to be, retaining the role of a play caller?
Yeah, he is. Kafka's still going to be the play call. The other option would be Shea Tierney. But look, Mike Kafka came to the Giants to call plays, and he gets a lot of heat this year, which I see in my mentions, which I think is kind of silly because the Giants' most successful 2 offensive seasons since Brian Daboll came were by far 2022 and this year, and Mike Kafka was called the play caller both those years. So, Daboll took over in the middle of 2023 or at some point in 2023 and then did it in 2024. And the offense actually couldn't score in those 2 years at all. So Kafka's actually had some success calling plays. And look, they're averaging almost 24 points per game with Jackson Dart as a starter. Why would you change that up now?
What I know it's early. Any update on Dart and his status, or I know it's Monday, so long
Yeah,
way
it's
to
a
go.
little early for that one. We actually didn't even speak to the coach today because they fired the coach today. So we didn't hear from anyone from the organization. But yeah, I would be very cautious with him and think that there's a reasonable chance that he could miss this week's game based on how they've handled concussions in over the past few years and injuries in general. The Giants are going to be on the cautious side, especially if this is a young quarterback who's basically their future franchise quarterback. You got to be especially careful. He had his 4th concussion test of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way it plays out here, but we'll see if he's on the field at all on Wednesday/Thursday. That'll kind of give us an indication if he can get back.
So if he doesn't play, are we really rolling Russell Wilson's corpse out there? I mean, can Jameis get any love? Like, we can't be worse than what we've seen from Russ.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. I mean, we're still early in this process, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Jameis if Jackson Dart can't play. You have to, don't you have to at this point?
Yeah,
that it'll be ugly. The fans won't greet Russell Wilson kindly if he's starting that game. It would be tough.
All right. Last one for you, Jordan. Jordan Raanan, tremendous job covering the Giants. So, all right, final. What do we got? 7 games left of the season. What are you watching for now? Like, what are some of your? All right, I'm just checking this thing out. Outside of obviously Kafka and the job he does as the interim.
Kafka and how he does. Jackson Dart in his development. If it's worth keeping those 2 together. All right, that's the big thing here. It was always Daboll. We don't want to have a totally new scheme and new coach and everything, having the quarterback start over again. Well, that still kind of exists with Mike Kafka, right? And Mike Kafka was a guy who was heavily involved in rookie year Patrick Mahomes' development. That was essentially his job that year. His job was to work with Patrick Mahomes. So he does have experience working with young quarterbacks as well. So we'll see how that works out. Abdul Carter, too. Kind of invisible the last 2 weeks. Has flashed in regards to pressures, but it hasn't resulted in sacks. Let's see if he can sort of turn it on here in the second half of the season. And who can develop as like a weapon and a receiver and a reliable weapon for Jackson Dart? Is it Wan'Dale Robinson? Then do they have to re-sign him? Is it Theo Johnson? Okay, maybe he could be a secondary weapon to Malik Neighbors, right? Darius Slayton, can he become like a go-to guy for Jackson Dart? I mean, he had two huge plays. The Giants were doing absolutely nothing in that game on Sunday in Chicago until Darius Slayton made a ridiculous one-handed catch, and then the very next play, another big play. And then he kind of re-injured his hamstring at that point. But you saw some flashes that from him that he could be a contributor here down the stretch. So these are the kind of things. And also, can they sort of fix that defense a little bit? Like, is it that far off from being good? And what's up with Dexter Lawrence? Clearly not playing at the same level he has in recent years.
You know what's amazing, and we'll finish off here, because I remember, and I'm not knocking you for this. You were obviously right. But this past offseason, you were on the radio a ton talking about how good this defense was expected to be. And man, they're just a couple of stops, and we can do this exercise with bad teams, but we watch every play of this team, man. They're a couple of stops away, as crazy as it sounds, from being 5-4. Like, they should not have blown that Denver game. They shouldn't have blown the Cowboys game, and then yesterday. So look, the Saints 14-3. That's still early. 5 turnovers. We can even ignore that one, but that's 3.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you're not a good team and you have poor coaching and you're making mistakes, and the little details matter. Like, that's where you can get an edge. They're at a disadvantage, so that's why they're sitting here at 2-8 right now. I mean, they need everything to go perfectly in order to win games, and they're not super talented. The back end of the defense has been abysmal. Right? I mean,
but they weren't even needing everything to go perfectly yesterday in that game against the Bears. They weren't playing all that well. They were just playing good enough to be up by 10. And by the way, I said that we are going to end.
The Bears tried to do everything to lose that game. I mean, they were dropping passes, missing big plays left and right. They played terrible, the Bears, for 3 quarters. And so, yeah, the Giants absolutely should have won that game and taken that game and put it away.
My last one for you is this. Listen, man, you're 2-7. You're going nowhere. Your regime started by you being aggressive in Tennessee, going for 2 to beat the Titans. How are you from the half-yard line not going up 2 or attempting to go up 2 scores?
Yeah, see, I'm not that. See, even the way you phrased it, it's like, what do you mean? Because I'm not so much. I understand that once it's a penalty, maybe I would think about it. But originally, from like the 3. I'm kicking the field goal because they weren't up 2 scores. The field goal made them up 2 scores. So I don't know. I'm not that much against it. Imagine they went for it and Russell Wilson threw the ball out of the end zone again or something. You know what I mean? Or he tried to run it and got stuffed again. You would be sitting here right now, Ty, being like, how do you not go up 2 scores and kick the field goal there?
Oh, Jordan,
how do you trust Russell Wilson?
No.
We've seen how bad he is.
Jordan, no. I disagree with you because I've also seen how bad this defense is. So I trust that if I go up 14, that's a lot better than me going up 10. I also think, as this supposed offensive guru,
They blew the 14-point lead anyway, Ty.
Yeah. I understand that, but in that spot, because you're talking about what if Russell Wilson throws the ball out of the end zone again, as a supposed offensive guru, shouldn't you be able to come up with a play in a big spot like that to give your team a chance to get into the end zone?
Didn't we learn this offensive guru thing was bogus? Come on. I mean, are we at the point like their offense wasn't at no point was their offense that good when he was there? So I don't know. Just it's not the case. So
I appreciate you, man. I know you got a lot to do. Nothing but love for you for hopping on the stream today. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
You got it, man. Anytime. I got you.
Later, bro. That was Jordan Raanan. Man, what a day for the New York Giants. He's awesome as always. Hit us up in the comments. Ty D Butler. Make sure you give me a follow. I'm streaming live on X on Twitter at Ty D Butler. TYDBUTLER. You can see it on your screen. I am also streaming on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to the show. Hit me up on Instagram as well, Ty D Butler. And we are reacting to the Giants once again being forced to fire a head coach. And look, I'm not going to destroy them for it because it is what it is. You're 2-8, man. Your team's lifeless. It looks like they're out there. I don't want to say they quit on them, but when your defense is blowing leads left and right, you can't sell me on this guy being the right man for the job. As good as Jackson Dart has been, I can't keep this dude as the head coach because I think Jackson Dart is so good that he can get any other head coach and still be pretty special. So the Giants did what they needed to do today, firing the head coach. I thought they should have went a step further, fired the general manager as well, because you can't tell me as you look at the Giants, who in the last 3 years, 6-11, 3-14, 2-8, you cannot sit here and tell me that is strictly a head coaching problem. You cannot convince me of that. Yes, he's had some awful decisions in game, and I just laid out for you how I disagreed with, being in a spot where you could go up 14 and you kick the field goal, half-yard line. Come on, man. That aggressiveness, that ingratiated yourself with the fan base to start your regime in that week 1 game against the Titans. What happened? You coaching scared now? That's eradicated itself. You're 2-7. So if you can't pick up half a yard, then your team doesn't deserve to win the damn game anyway. But I trust that against a leaky Bears defense, some trickery, some creativity, not just running it up the gut. I trust that you can do something to pick up half a yard. And if you can't, then they all stink. But they should have won that game yesterday. They should have won that game yesterday and would have if Jackson Dart doesn't get hurt, which throws another wrench into this. Your quarterback is consistently taking a beating behind that offensive line. And I'm not blaming the offensive line. What I'm saying is because of his style of play, because of the scheme, this dude's in the medical tent every single week. And Daboll was so desperate, and this made me feel uncomfortable, man. Yo, he is so desperate. The way he's hugging and kissing on that man, which is a little weird to me, so desperate, he hopped in the medical tent. I've never seen that. He was a first responder. Your man Brian Daboll was supposed to be coaching the team. He's a first responder for this head injury. Hopped in a medical tent. He's screaming at the medical assistant to the point where he ends up getting fined. It was such an embarrassment for the organization that I'm surprised they didn't fire him then. And yesterday, it was, the dam had broken. We had seen enough. Cowboys, blown fourth quarter lead. Broncos, blown fourth quarter lead. Bears, blown fourth quarter lead. A team that should be 5-4 is 2-8 with a head coaching vacancy. Sounds all too familiar if you're a Giant fan. Freddie Falcon chimes in, agreed, Ty. Go for it. At worst, they're pinned. And if you don't trust Russ to pick up half a yard, how do we expect them to go 80 yards or pick up first downs to run out the clock? Exactly. If I can't get this offense to pick up half a yard, we're going to lose the game anyway. Go get that half a yard. Now, you could say in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Giant fans right now that are actually elated that they lost that game because it led to Daboll getting his job taken from him. And they feel like this is the best case scenario. Like, would we rather be 3-7 with a head coach on life support? That dude is a dead man walking. Or would we rather have once again lost a heartbreaking game and ended up where we are today with, by the way, as I continue to say, the most attractive job in the NFL? You've got a quarterback who is tracking to be one of the best youngsters in the league. See it already. Neighbors, scattable. Got some weapons on offense once they come back next year. That defense has talent. This is still the New York Giants. The allure of what Giant fans are hoping to get back to being a first-class organization. So it's a great day, and I'm saying this as someone who's not a fan, but if I'm a Giant fan, it's a great day because we got the most attractive job on the market, and we've got a quarterback. So I told y'all, Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, you just hope that those dudes shake free. Things go south in Pittsburgh and Baltimore, they shake free. Hit us up in the comments. I want to hear from you. Also, plug in you guys to follow me. I appreciate the love on Twitter at Ty D Butler. Hit me up on Instagram. We get this thing ringing off on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the channel. Here's another thing too. I was on TV this past weekend on SNY. Make sure you check out Sports Night. And I had the graphic of Caleb and Jackson Dart, and I'll actually pull it up for y'all. Through their first 6 career starts, the Giants were going to win that football game yesterday if Jackson Dart doesn't get hurt. I am so confident they were going to win that game. But what's so interesting to me is we've now gotten to a spot where remember how devastating it was to not end up with the number 1 overall pick a couple years ago because Tommy DeVito had won too many games for the Giants. So it took them out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. It took them out of the Drake May, Jaden Daniels sweepstakes. And now all of a sudden you have a guy who's tracking to be in the conversation with those dudes. And I'm not saying he is Jaden, Caleb, or Drake, because Drake, as far as I'm concerned, top 3 MVP candidate right now. Caleb still has the highest ceiling, and Jaden was in the NFC Championship game last year. So we can't fully abandon those guys just yet. But based on what you've seen from Jackson Dart, it's rather fascinating how quickly the plot has changed. Where you went from, man, we missed out on those can't miss quarterbacks to, we might have a guy ready to join that triumvirate. And I'm trying to blow this graphic up on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a head-to-head comparison of Caleb and Drake May. So let me try to blow it up. Games compared to Caleb Williams. So I'm not saying he's already better than Caleb. I'm not saying that at all. But I ask you as a Giant fan, because you got to see Caleb up close and personal. If the Bears called you up, you're the Giant general manager right now. You can play the role of Joe Schoen. The Bears call you up and say, we'll give you Caleb for Jackson Dart straight up. Are you taking that? Are you taking that trade? It's crazy that just 10 minutes ago, you would have said, yeah. Now, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. And that is part of the reason why this is not some, doomsday for the Giants. 6-11, 3-14, 2-8. That dude had to go, man. It was time for Brian Daboll to get up on out of here. But now you're in a spot where you've got an attractive job, and you just hope that Joe Schoen, who did get the head coach wrong the first time around in hiring Brian Daboll, that he's learned from the error of his ways. He is using this lifeline, this second chance, and he's able to capitalize on it. There are some pieces in place. You've got another draft. You're going to be picking pretty high in this draft coming up. And you've got the quarterback, which is most important above all things. So you're starting from a spot, and I wanted to talk to Jordan about this, but the Giants post Eli Coughlin haven't been in a spot this favorable, because when you get McAdoo, yes, you get into the playoffs in 2016, but that's Eli on his back nine. And I know everyone tried to make it into if he just gets an offensive line, I think he can win another Super Bowl. And Dave Gettleman thought the same thing, which is why he drafted Saquon. But that was Eli on his last legs. You then draft Daniel Jones, who right now looks good. Last couple of weeks notwithstanding, but looks pretty good for the Colts. But he was not the guy for this organization. You now are in, you could argue, the most favorable position you've been in since the end of the Coughlin, Reese, Manning era of Giants football, because your general manager did get his quarterback right. Now, I disagree with you retaining the general manager, but what we can't argue is he got his quarterback right. And because he got the quarterback right, and he's got some talent on his team, you can capitalize and build this roster through the draft, facilitate some trades. However you want to improve this roster, you can do it. And, hey, it just, the tenor of the division, we'll end it here. The tenor of the division, NFC East, just changes just every year, because 2 weeks before the season, we thought, man, Washington, Dallas, Philly, all clearly miles better than you. Then all of a sudden, Micah Parsons gets traded to the Packers, weakens Dallas. And I think Dallas is still, a mediocre team, because I think Dak's a top 10 quarterback, but they've fallen down a few notches post Micah trade. Washington, as great as they were last year, Jaden Daniels, it's an injury risk, man. And I think the world of Jaden. It was so fun to watch him last year. He's an injury risk. And then you have the Eagles, who all they do is get to Super Bowls, and yet A.J. Brown just can't find happiness. Like, my man, can you just enjoy winning? But because of, they're always a threat to have some fracturing in that locker room, who knows what's going to happen with Philly? Again, they're all still better than the Giants. Dallas has come down a little bit. The Eagles, I just can't. The attitudes in the locker room, like, I just don't fully trust them 100%. And then you've got Washington with a quarterback who's got an injury history and is developing an injury history. And with that frame, it was one of the, trepidations that you had if you were a fan of the Commanders. So things might be trending up for the Giants. And it's been a while since we've been able to say that. I think, and this is with all due respect to Brian Dave, I don't want to be celebrating a man losing his job. He still has, a family to take care of and all that. He's going to be fine financially. But when, these people, we don't just have to look at the finances, right? Like, we can focus on football lifers. They love their job. They put a lot of work into their craft. So it gets to a point, and it gets to a point where, like, the human side of it, you just feel for them. But with that said, this has all the makings of being a great day for the New York Giants. Ty D. Butler, as we sign off, is where you can find me on X. Make sure you hit that follow button on Twitter, man. Hit me up. Follow the show on YouTube, and then go to Instagram. Hit me up, Ty D. Butler. Give me a follow button. We'll be posting all the content on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Also got TikTok bumping off, so we will do that. Shout out to you guys for joining the stream today. Really appreciate y'all hanging out. Jordan Raanan, nothing but love for that man who does an excellent job covering this New York Giants team. For better or for worse, they just keep this man busy with how inept they've been. But today, hopefully for you Giant fans out there, is the beginning of what should and what you hope to be a prosperous era of Giants football. So shout out to all of y'all. Hit me up on the socials. Ty D. Butler, you can see it at the bottom of the screen. Deuces.